The crystal ships moved through space like deadly ghosts. Their hulls shined with strange light as they approached another world. Commander Vextal stood on the bridge of his flagship and watched the planet below. Soon, it would be theirs. Just like all the others, the Velkari Empire had been winning for 2 years. They moved from star to star, taking every world they found. Their ships were beautiful and terrible. The hulls were made of living crystal that could heal itself. Their weapons could tear through any defense. No one could stop them. Vextal looked at his crew. They were perfect beings now. Long ago, the Velkari had been weak like other races, but they had changed themselves. They put crystals in their bodies. The crystals made them stronger, faster, smarter. They became living weapons. Send the surrender demand, Vextal ordered. The message went down to the planet. It was always the same message. Join the Empire or be destroyed. Most planets chose to join. The smart ones did. The others became dust. On the planet below, people ran in panic. They had heard stories about the crystal ships. Whole worlds had fallen in hours. Armies that had fought for years were gone in minutes. The Velkari did not show mercy. Far away, Captain Lee Hyun sat in his small research ship. The Soul's Pride was not a warship. It was built to study plants and rocks on new worlds. But today, Hyun was listening to something horrible. "Captain," said Park Mira from her station, "I'm getting signals from Kepler 442. Hyun knew that world. It was a farming planet. Good people lived there. They grew food for other colonies. Put it on speaker." The voice that came through was full of fear. "This is Kepler Defense Control. We are under attack. The crystal ships, they're everywhere. Our shields are down. They're breaking through our—" The signal cut to nothing. Hyun felt sick. Another world was gone. Kim Taeho, his engineer, shook his head sadly. "How many is that now?" 17, said Choi Nari, the communications officer. Her voice was quiet. 17 worlds in 2 years. Back on the Velkari flagship, Vextal watched the planet surrender. It took 3 hours. That was longer than usual. Some worlds gave up in minutes. This one had tried to fight. "Foolish," Vextal said to his second-in-command. "They could have saved themselves pain." The crystal being next to him nodded. The weak always struggle before they accept truth. Vextal believed this completely. The Velkari were evolution's answer. They had moved beyond flesh and blood. Other races were stuck in the past. They clung to their weak bodies and small minds. The Empire would free them from this burden. The conquest of Kepler 442 followed the same pattern as all the others. First, the Velkari ships appeared in orbit. Their very presence made electronics fail and gravity twist. Then came the surrender demand. If the world refused, the bombardment began. The Velkari had 3 types of weapons: energy beams that could cut through mountains, matter destroyers that made solid things disappear, and gravity crushers that could flatten cities. No defense could stop all 3, but the weapons were not the worst part. The worst part was how the Velkari used the people they captured. Some became slaves. Others were taken apart to study their biology. A few were given the choice to become Velkari themselves. The crystal transformation was painful. Many did not survive it. Admiral Kang Siwoo read the reports at Luna Station. He was the head of the Human Defense Fleet's 7th Squadron. The news was bad. Very bad. "They're moving toward our space," he told his staff. "At their current speed, they'll reach our outer colonies in 6 months." The room was silent. Everyone knew what that meant. Earth's colonies were not ready for this kind of war. They had some ships, some weapons, but nothing like what the Velkari possessed. "What about the other races?" asked one officer. "Can they help us?" Kang shook his head. "The Zenthari had the strongest military in this sector. They lasted 2 weeks. The Quillian Collective had better technology than us. They fell in days. The truth was hard to accept. Every race that fought the Velkari had lost. The crystal ships were too strong, too fast, too advanced. Conventional warfare did not work against them. There is one option," Kang said slowly. "We don't wait for them to reach us. We go to them." His staff looked confused. "Sir, that would be suicide." "Maybe," Kang agreed. "But if we're going to die anyway, let's make it count. We send our best ship to the Nexus Point. Make them fight us on our terms." The Nexus Point was where 3 major space routes crossed. All traffic had to pass through it. If they could block the Velkari there, they might buy time for the colonies to prepare. On his research ship, Captain Lee Hyun made a decision. He changed course and headed for Earth. The defense fleet needed to know what he had seen. The recordings from Kepler 442 showed how the Valkyrie fought. Maybe that information could help. As Hyun's ship jumped to hyperspace, he thought about the farmers on Kepler 442. They had been good people. They had grown food to feed others. Now they were slaves or worse. Someone had to stop the crystal ships. Someone had to make them pay. The Valkyrie Empire continued its advance. World after world fell before them. Their crystal ships moved like a tide of destruction across the galaxy. Nothing could stand in their way. But in the depths of space, human ships were moving too. They carried desperate plans and dangerous weapons. The humans had studied every battle report. They knew they could not win a fair fight, so they would not fight fair. The crystal ships were coming. But they would find that humans were different from the other races. Humans did not give up easily, and they did not fight the way anyone expected. The war was about to change. The Human Defense Council met in emergency session. Old men and women sat around a table, making decisions that would affect billions of lives. The holographic display showed the Valkyrie advance. Red dots marked conquered worlds. The red was spreading like a disease. "We have 6 months," Admiral Kang Siwoo told the council. "Maybe less if they speed up their advance." Council leader Park Jin-soo studied the star maps. "What are our options?" "We can fortify the colonies and wait," Kang replied. "Build more defenses, call back all our ships, maybe hold them off for a few extra weeks, or we take the fight to them. Send our best ship to the Nexus Point, make our stand there." The council members looked worried. Sending one ship against the entire Valkyrie fleet sounded like madness, but they had all read the reports. No one had successfully defended against the crystal ships. Maybe offense was their only choice. "What ship?" asked Council Leader Park. "The Incheon's Hammer," Kang answered. "Our newest Titan-class dreadnought. If any ship can do this, it's her." The Incheon's Hammer sat in Earth's orbital shipyard like a sleeping giant. She was 2 kilometers long and packed with humanity's most advanced technology. Her hull was made of adaptive armor that could change its structure. Her weapons could punch holes through asteroids. Her engines could push her to speeds that made other ships look slow. Captain Yoon Dae-sung walked through his ship's corridors. He had been given command just 3 months ago. Now he was being asked to take her into impossible odds. His crew was the best humanity had to offer, but were they good enough? Commander Han Sora met him in the tactical center. She was young for a commander, but her mind worked like a computer when it came to warfare. "Captain, I've been studying the Valkyrie battle recordings. What did you find?" "They're very good at what they do," Sora said. "But they always do the same thing. They form up in perfect formations. They attack in predictable patterns. They expect their enemies to do the same." Yoon nodded. He had noticed this too. Every battle followed the same script. The Valkyrie would arrive, demand surrender, then destroy anyone who refused. Their tactics were efficient but rigid. "What if we don't follow their script?" Yoon asked. Lieutenant Colonel Jang Min-soo joined them. He was in charge of the ship's weapons. His job was to hurt the enemy before they could hurt him. "Sir, I've been looking at their shield technology. It's designed to stop energy weapons and kinetic rounds. But it might not handle quantum weapons very well. The energy signature is different. Unpredictable." Major Song Yuna came in from the engine room. She kept the ship running no matter what happened to it. Her adaptive systems could repair damage faster than most enemies could cause it. "Captain, I've got an idea about the armor plating." Yoon listened as his senior staff explained their plans. Each officer had studied the Valkyrie and found weaknesses. Small ones, but weaknesses nonetheless. Maybe that would be enough. The Defense Council voted. It was close, but they approved the mission. The Incheon's Hammer would go to the Nexus Point. She would intercept the Valkyrie fleet. She would buy time for the colonies to prepare their defenses. Everyone knew it was probably a suicide mission. 3 days later, the Incheon's Hammer left Earth orbit. Her crew of 800 souls carried the hopes of humanity. They jumped into hyperspace and headed for their destiny. The Nexus Point was a strange place. 3 major hyperspace routes came together there. Space itself was twisted and bent. Ships had to drop out of hyperspace and travel normally through the junction. It was the perfect place for an ambush. When the Inchin's hammer arrived, the system was empty. The Velkari fleet had not reached it yet. Yoon had perhaps 6 hours to prepare. "All hands, this is the captain," he announced over the ship's communication system. "In a few hours, we're going to face an enemy that has never been defeated. They have better technology, more ships, and superior firepower." The crew listened in silence. "But they don't have what we have. They don't have our creativity. They don't have our stubbornness. And they don't have our refusal to give up when things look impossible." Yoon paused, looking out at the twisted space around them. "We're not here to win a glorious victory. We're here to show them that humanity cannot be easily conquered. We're here to prove that some fights are worth having, even when you can't win them." The crew began their preparations. Commander Sora set up defensive positions using the local asteroids. Lieutenant Colonel Jang loaded the quantum torpedoes and charged the fusion lance. Major Song routed power through backup systems, preparing for battle damage. The waiting was the hardest part. Every minute felt like an hour. Some crew members prayed. Others checked their equipment again and again. A few wrote letters they hoped someone would find. Then the sensors detected them. Hyperspace distortions at the edge of the system. Big ones. Lots of them. "Contact," reported the sensor operator. "Multiple ships dropping out of hyperspace. Counting. 50, 100. Still counting." The Velkari fleet emerged from hyperspace like a shining cloud of death. Crystal ships of every size, from small fighters to massive dreadnoughts. At their center was the flagship Dominion's Edge, a mountain of living crystal that pulsed with inner light. "Final count, sir," the sensor operator said, his voice tight. 212 vessels. Yoon felt his stomach clench. He had known the odds would be bad, but seeing 200 enemy ships was different from reading about them in reports. "All stations report ready, sir," Commander Sora announced. "Very well." Yoon straightened in his captain's chair. "Open a channel to the enemy flagship." The main screen flickered. Commander Vextal appeared, his crystal-enhanced features showing cold amusement. "Human vessel, you are blocking our path. Move aside or be destroyed." "This is Captain Yoon Dae-sung of the human defense ship Inchin's Hammer. These systems are under human protection. Turn back now." Vextal's expression did not change. "You have 1 ship. We have 200. Your mathematics are poor." "Math was never my best subject," Yoon replied. "But I'm very good at other things." The Velkari commander studied the human ship. It was large but primitive looking. Metal instead of crystal. Chemical engines instead of gravitic drives. It would be destroyed quickly. "You have 5 minutes to withdraw," Vextal said. "After that, we will demonstrate why 17 worlds have surrendered to us." "Counter offer," Yoon said. "You have 5 minutes to turn around and go home. After that, we'll show you why humans have never surrendered to anyone." The transmission ended. Both fleets prepared for battle. The Velkari formed their perfect attack formations. The humans did something completely different. They got ready to improvise. Commander Vextal waited exactly 5 minutes. The Velkari were always precise. When the time was up, he gave the order to attack. 200 crystal ships moved forward in perfect formation, their weapons charged with deadly light. The human ship did something unexpected. Instead of facing the attack head-on, it dove toward a nearby asteroid field. The Inchin's hammer twisted and spun as it moved like it was dancing instead of fighting. "What are they doing?" Vextal's second-in-command asked. "Running," Vextal replied. As expected, but the humans were not running. Captain Yoon had ordered his ship into the asteroids for a reason. The Space Rocks would break up the Velkari formations. They would also provide cover for what came next. "Fire control, this is the captain," Yoon said calmly. "Execute Pattern Alpha." Lieutenant Colonel Jang Minsu smiled grimly. Pattern Alpha was something they had practiced but never used in real combat. Instead of firing at the enemy ships, they would fire at the space between them. The quantum torpedoes streaked out from the Inchin's hammer. They exploded in empty space, creating gravity distortions. The Velkari ships, flying in tight formation, suddenly found space itself twisting around them. 3 crystal vessels collided with each other. Their perfect formation collapsed into chaos. Other ships swerved wildly, trying to avoid the gravity waves. Vextal stared at his tactical display in confusion. What kind of weapon was that? His science officer checked the readings. Unknown, Commander. The energy signature is unlike anything in our database. The human ship was already moving again. It used the gravity distortions like a slingshot, accelerating to impossible speeds. Before the Velkari could react, the Inchan's hammer was behind their formation. Commander Hansora coordinated the next attack. Target their engines, she ordered. Make them slow down. The fusion lance fired. It was humanity's most powerful weapon, designed to crack open planets. But instead of hitting a Velkari ship directly, it struck an asteroid. The space rock exploded, sending fragments in all directions at high speed. The debris cloud hit the Velkari rear guard. Their shields were designed to stop energy weapons, not chunks of rock moving at tremendous velocity. Several ships took damage. One small vessel was completely destroyed. Vextal felt something he had not experienced in years. Uncertainty. The humans were not fighting like any enemy he had faced before. They were using the environment as a weapon. They were turning empty space into a battlefield. All ships reform and attack, he ordered. Destroy that vessel. But reforming was easier said than done. The gravity distortions were still active. Space in the area was twisted and dangerous. The Velkari ships had to move carefully to avoid being caught in the energy fields. The Inchan's hammer used this time to position itself near a large asteroid. Major Song Yuna had been modifying the ship's systems. The adaptive armor was learning from each attack the Velkari made. Every energy beam that hit them made the armor stronger. They're adapting to our weapons, the Velkari science officer reported. Each shot is less effective than the last. Vextal could not believe what he was hearing. That's impossible. No species has adaptive technology that advanced. The readings don't lie, Commander. Their hull is actually getting stronger. The human ship moved again. This time it headed straight for the Velkari flagship. Every crystal vessel in the fleet opened fire. Energy beams and matter disruptors filled space with deadly light. The Inchan's hammer flew through the attack like it was made of fire. Her adaptive armor absorbed the energy and converted it to power. Her hull glowed brighter with each hit. She was not just surviving the bombardment. She was feeding on it. Captain Yoon stood on his bridge watching the tactical display. All stations prepare for close combat maneuvers. Sir, we're heading right for their flagship, Commander Sora warned. I know, Yoon replied. Trust the plan. At the last possible moment, the Inchan's hammer changed course. She passed so close to the Dominion's edge that their hulls almost touched. As she flew by, she released a spread of quantum mines. The mines attached to the crystal ship's hull and began to interfere with its systems. The Dominion's edge shuddered as its shields flickered. For a moment, the mighty flagship was vulnerable. Lieutenant Colonel Zhang took that moment. The fusion lance fired at point-blank range, striking the enemy ship's main engine. The blast sent the Dominion's edge spinning out of control. Vextal grabbed his command chair as his ship tumbled through space. Around him, crystal panels sparked and alarms wailed. His perfect vessel had been damaged by a primitive human ship. Damage report, he shouted. Main engines offline, came the reply. Shields at 60%. Hull breaches on deck 7 through 12. Vextal stared at the tactical display. One human ship had just disabled his flagship and caused chaos throughout his fleet. This should have been impossible. The Inchan's hammer was not finished. She moved through the Velkari formation like a predator among prey. Her attacks came from unexpected angles. She used the enemy's own weapons against them, deflecting energy beams toward other crystal ships. When a group of Velkari vessels tried to surround her, the human ship did something that defied all military logic. She jumped into hyperspace for exactly 3 seconds, reappearing behind her attackers. They're using microjumps, the Velkari tactical officer reported. That should be impossible in this gravity field. Everything they do should be impossible, Vextal replied grimly. Commander Sora was coordinating the impossible maneuvers from her station. Pattern Delta Mark 7, she called out. Use the solar wind. The Inchan's hammer deployed energy sails that caught the radiation from the nearby star. Using the solar wind for propulsion, she accelerated beyond what her engines could normally achieve. The Velkari ships could not match this speed. The battle continued for 3 hours. The Valkyrie tried every tactic they knew. They attempted to overwhelm the human ship with superior numbers. They tried to trap it in crossfire. They even used their gravity weapons to create artificial black holes. Nothing worked. The humans anticipated every move. They turned each attack into an opportunity. They fought like the laws of physics were merely suggestions. Major Song Yuna kept the ship's systems running far beyond their design limits. She rerouted power in ways that should have caused explosions. She overcharged the weapons until they glowed white-hot. The ship was performing miracles of engineering. How are they doing this? Vextal demanded. His science officer had been analyzing the battle data. Commander, I believe they are not fighting to win. What do you mean? They are fighting to learn. Each engagement teaches them something new about our capabilities. They are adapting faster than we can counter-adapt. Vextal realized the truth. The humans were not trying to destroy his fleet. They were trying to prove something. They were showing the galaxy that the Valkyrie Empire could be resisted. As the fourth hour began, something unprecedented happened. The first Valkyrie ship retreated from the battle zone, then another. Soon, dozens of crystal vessels were pulling back to a safe distance. For the first time in their empire's history, the Valkyrie had been forced to withdraw from a battle they had started. The Inchon's hammer hung in space, surrounded by debris and energy fields. Her hull was scarred but intact. Her crew was exhausted but alive. They had done the impossible. They had made the unstoppable Valkyrie Empire stop. The Valkyrie fleet gathered at the edge of the system. Commander Vextal stood in the repair bay of his flagship, watching crystal technicians fix the damage. The humans had hurt his ship. No one had ever hurt his ship before. Bring me the analysis, he ordered his science cast. The crystal beings worked for hours, studying every moment of the battle. They examined the human ship's movements, its weapons, its impossible maneuvers. What they found disturbed them deeply. The human vessel does not follow standard military doctrine, the lead scientist reported. Their tactics appear random, but they achieve specific goals. Vextal studied the data streams. Random tactics cannot defeat superior technology. That is what we believed, Commander. But observe this pattern. The holographic display showed the battle from above. The human ship's path looked like chaos at first. But when viewed over time, a pattern emerged. Every seemingly random move had served a purpose. The humans had been fighting a three-dimensional chess game while the Valkyrie played checkers. They anticipated our responses, another scientist added. Before we made our moves, they were already countering them. Impossible. We have the most advanced tactical computers in the galaxy. Yes, Commander. But they do not use computers for tactics. They use something else. The scientists showed Vextal scans of the human crew. Their brain patterns were unlike anything the Valkyrie had encountered. Where other species showed organized, efficient thought processes, human minds displayed constant, chaotic activity. They think differently than we do, the lead scientist explained. Their neural patterns are irregular, unpredictable. This chaos appears to be their strength, not their weakness. Vextal could not accept this. The Valkyrie had evolved beyond chaos. They had eliminated random thought through crystal enhancement. Their minds worked with perfect logic and efficiency. How could chaos be superior to order? Study their technology, he commanded. Find weaknesses we can exploit. The analysis of human weapons and systems revealed more disturbing truths. Their technology was not primitive. It was different. Where Valkyrie equipment sought perfection, human systems embraced flexibility. Their adaptive armor did not just protect the ship. It learned from each attack and evolved to counter it. Their quantum weapons violated several known laws of physics, but they worked anyway. Their fusion reactor was held together by what could only be described as controlled chaos. They have weaponized unpredictability, the science cast concluded. Their entire civilization appears to be built on this principle. Meanwhile, aboard the Inchon's hammer, Captain Yoon was having his own revelations. His crew had analyzed the Valkyrie attack patterns during the battle. The enemy was incredibly advanced but totally rigid. They're too perfect, Commander Sora observed. Every move follows optimal mathematical models. But that makes them predictable. Lieutenant Colonel Zhang nodded. Their crystal enhancement process has removed randomness from their thinking. They can't adapt to truly unexpected situations. Major Song was examining the damage to her ship. The adaptive armor had performed beyond all expectations. Captain, I think I understand why our technology works so well against theirs. Explain. They design their systems to counter known threats, but we build ours to handle unknown situations. Our equipment expects the unexpected. Captain Yoon realized they had stumbled upon something important. Humanity's apparent weakness, their chaotic, unpredictable nature, was actually an evolutionary advantage. While other species tried to match Velkari perfection, humans embraced imperfection. The standoff continued for days. Neither side could gain a decisive advantage. The Velkari could not break through the human defenses. The Inchin's hammer could not defeat the entire enemy fleet alone. But Captain Yoon was not worried. He knew something the Velkari did not. This battle was never about winning or losing. It was about sending a message to the galaxy. That message was being received. Ships began arriving at the nexus point. Not military vessels, but civilian craft. Merchants, explorers, colony transports, research ships like Captain Lee Hyun's Soul's Pride. Each human ship was different. Some had been modified for mining asteroids. Others carried scientific equipment. A few were armed merchant vessels that traded in dangerous space. Every captain brought their own ideas about how to fight. The Velkari watched this strange fleet gather and felt confusion. These were not warships. They had no unified command structure. Some of the vessels looked like they had been built in someone's garage. What are they planning? Vextel wondered aloud. His tactical officer studied the human formation, if it could be called a formation. The ships moved independently, each following its own pattern. There was no obvious strategy or coordination. Perhaps they intend to overwhelm us with numbers, the officer suggested. But Vextal knew that was not the answer. The humans were showing him something. They were demonstrating that their entire species was like this. Chaotic, unpredictable, impossible to categorize. Captain Lee Hyun had brought more than just his research ship. He carried recordings from 17 conquered worlds. Data about how the Velkari fought, what they wanted, how they thought. Share everything with the fleet, Captain Yoon ordered. Let every ship know what we're dealing with. The human captain studied the information and began to understand. The Velkari were not evil in the usual sense. They genuinely believed they were helping the galaxy by bringing order to chaos. But their definition of order meant the end of diversity, creativity, and independence. More ships kept arriving. Admiral Kang Si-woo's carrier Busan's Defiance dropped out of hyperspace with a full escort. Behind them came vessels from every human colony. They brought supplies, reinforcements, and most importantly, hope. The Velkari realized they were facing something they had never encountered before. Not an organized military force, but an entire species that refused to conform to their understanding of how civilizations should work. Commander, his science officer reported, we have identified over 300 different ship designs in the human fleet. Many appear to be unique constructions. Vextal understood the implications. Fighting one unusual ship was manageable. Fighting hundreds of different vessels, each with its own capabilities and tactics, was a nightmare scenario. They do not fight as one army, his tactical officer observed. They fight as thousands of individuals working toward the same goal. How do we counter such a force? The question hung in the air unanswered. The Velkari had conquered 17 worlds by overwhelming organized resistance. But how do you conquer chaos itself? Admiral Kang opened communications with the Velkari flagship. His message was simple and direct. Commander Vextal, my name is Admiral Kang Si-woo. I would like to discuss terms. There are no terms, Vextal replied. You will surrender or be destroyed. Actually, there are terms, Kang said calmly. You just haven't heard them yet. The Admiral's tone was not threatening or desperate. He spoke like someone stating facts about the weather. That confidence unsettled Vextal more than any threat could have. You can conquer worlds with ease, Kang continued, because those worlds fight the way you expect them to fight. We don't. Vextal looked at his tactical display. The human fleet continued to grow. More ships arrived every hour. Each one was different from the last. The Velkari computers could not predict what any of them might do. For the first time since beginning their conquest, Commander Vextal felt something his enhanced brain was not supposed to experience. He felt doubt. Admiral Kang Si-woo's fleet had grown to over 400 ships. They came from every corner of human space, colony vessels, mining ships, even a few cruise liners that had been modified with weapons. The sight should have been ridiculous. Instead, it was terrifying. Commander Vextal stood on his bridge and tried to understand what he was seeing. The human fleet had no formation, no central command. No unified strategy. Each ship moved independently, yet somehow they all worked together. How do we fight this? His tactical officer asked. It was a good question. The Velkari had perfected the art of warfare against organized enemies. They knew how to break formations, disrupt command structures, and target key vessels. But the humans had no key vessels. Every ship was equally important and equally dispensable. Admiral Kang opened communications again. This time, his image appeared on screens throughout both fleets. He was an older man with gray hair and calm eyes. He looked like someone's grandfather, not a military commander. Commander Vextal, Kang said politely, I think it's time we talked. The conversation that followed would change the balance of power in the galaxy. Not through threats or violence, but through simple truth. Your empire has conquered 17 worlds, Kang began. You've done this because those worlds fought you the way you expected to be fought. Organized armies against organized armies, advanced technology against advanced technology. Vextal listened without interrupting. But we won't fight you that way, Kang continued. We can't, it's not in our nature. Humans are chaos beings, Commander. We thrive on unpredictability. We get stronger when things don't go according to plan. Your chaos will not save you from superior firepower, Vextal replied. Won't it? Kang smiled. Tell me, how many ships have you lost today? Vextal checked his tactical display. The answer surprised him. 12 vessels damaged, 3 destroyed. We've lost 8 ships, Kang said. But here's the interesting part. Your ships were damaged by weapons and tactics you've never seen before. Ours were destroyed by familiar Velkari technology. The implication was clear. The humans were learning faster than the Velkari could adapt. Each engagement taught them something new, while the Crystal Empire remained locked in their perfect but rigid patterns. What do you want? Vextal asked. To show you something, Kang replied. A demonstration of what distributed chaos can accomplish. What happened next was like nothing the Velkari had ever seen. The human fleet didn't attack. Instead, they deployed what they called organized pandemonium. Every ship began doing something different. Mining vessels used their equipment to break apart asteroids and fling the pieces at high speed. Scientific ships released energy probes that interfered with Velkari sensors. Colony transports launched thousands of small pods that swarmed around the crystal vessels like angry insects. The Velkari tried to respond, but their tactical computers could not process so many different threats at once. Every time they focused on one ship, 3 others would attack from unexpected angles. Every time they adapted to one tactic, the humans would switch to something completely different. Within an hour, the mighty Velkari fleet was in complete disarray. Ships collided with each other trying to avoid human attacks. Communication systems jammed as too many units tried to coordinate responses. The perfect military machine was choking on its own complexity. Captain Yoon watched from the Inchan's hammer with satisfaction. That's what we call the human approach to warfare, he told his crew. If you can't win through superior strength, win through superior confusion. But the demonstration was not meant to humiliate the Velkari. It was meant to teach them something important. Admiral Kang called for a ceasefire and opened communications again. Commander Vextal, do you understand what just happened? Vextal's ship was drifting helplessly, its systems overwhelmed by multiple different attack patterns. You showed me that chaos can defeat order, he admitted reluctantly. No, Kang said gently. I showed you that chaos and order can coexist. Look at what we did. 400 ships, each acting independently yet working toward the same goal. That's not chaos defeating order. That's a different kind of order altogether. The concept was alien to Velkari thinking. Their empire was built on unity, conformity, perfect coordination. The idea that diversity could be a strength rather than a weakness was revolutionary. What are you proposing? Vextal asked. Partnership, Kang replied. Your people have achieved something remarkable. You've eliminated disease, extended life, enhanced physical capabilities. You have much to offer the galaxy. As do you, Vextal admitted. Your adaptive technologies, your creative solutions, they are impressive. Then why continue this war? Why not work together? Captain Yoon contacted his admiral. Sir, I'm detecting movement in the conquered systems. Some of the subjugated worlds are beginning to resist again. Kang smiled. The news is spreading, Commander Vextal. Worlds that thought resistance was hopeless are learning that the Velkari can be stopped. Your empire is about to face rebellions on 17 fronts. It was true. The battle at the Nexus Point had been broadcast across subspace by human communication networks. Every conquered world was seeing the same thing. The mighty Velkari fleet held at bay by human chaos tactics. More importantly, human ships were sharing their adaptive technologies with the rebels. Weapons that learned from each attack, armor that grew stronger under fire, tactics that turned unpredictability into a strategic advantage. Vextal faced a choice that would define the future of his empire. Continue the path of conquest and face an endless war against enemies who grew stronger with each encounter, or accept that the galaxy was large enough for multiple approaches to existence. What kind of partnership? He asked finally. The negotiations took 3 days. Both sides made concessions. The Velkari agreed to halt their expansion and allow conquered worlds to choose their own path. In return, humans would share their adaptive technologies and help integrate Velkari healing methods into galactic medical networks. But the most important agreement was philosophical. The galaxy would be recognized as a place of diversity, where different species could pursue different evolutionary paths without interference. Captain Yoon stood on his bridge as the treaty was signed. The Inchen's hammer had become more than a warship. She was a symbol of what could be accomplished when someone refused to accept the impossible. Captain, Commander Sora reported, we're receiving messages from across the galaxy. 17 worlds are declaring independence from the Velkari Empire. And the Velkari response? They're allowing it. Commander Vextal has ordered his forces to withdraw to their original territory. Lieutenant Colonel Zhang shook his head in amazement. We actually did it. We stopped the unstoppable. No, Captain Yoon corrected. We showed them that unstoppable is just another word for inflexible. Once they learned to bend, they didn't have to break. Major Song was already working on repairs to the adaptive armor. Captain, the armor has retained everything it learned during the battle. We're significantly stronger than when we started. That was the essence of the human approach. Every challenge made them stronger. Every defeat taught them something new. Every victory opened up new possibilities. The Velkari Empire still existed, but it was no longer an empire of conquest. Commander Vextal had learned that true strength came not from imposing order on chaos, but from finding order within apparent chaos. The human fleet began to disperse. Some ships returned to their colonies. Others stayed to help with the integration process. A few, like the Soul's Pride, went to explore new territories opened up by the peace agreement. Captain Lee Hyun sent a message to Captain Yoon before departing. Thank you for showing the galaxy that David can still beat Goliath. We didn't beat them, Yoon replied. We taught them that there's more than one way to be strong. The Inchen's hammer took her place as guardian of the Nexus Point. She would remain there as a reminder that some paths could not be blocked. Some spirits could not be broken, and some species simply refused to submit to anyone's vision of how the universe should work. In the end, the galaxy remained vast and dangerous, but it was no longer a place where any single empire could claim inevitability. Humanity had earned its place among the stars not through conquest, but by proving that chaos, creativity, and unpredictability were evolutionary advantages that no amount of technological superiority could overcome. The war was over. The peace was just beginning, and in the space between order and chaos, something new was being born.